This is the Sawbrass channel, and this video is going to be a quick guide on how to change the front main seal, also known as the front crankshaft seal, on any OG93 that is 1999 to 2002. This seal, there's multiple brands. This is the L-Ring brand. Diese Seal habe in Deutschland gemacht. But there's plenty that'll work. Saab sells them, Europart sells them. But the reason we're changing this one is all the oil that is leaking out from this side of the engine. So if you ever happen to crawl into your car and see oil coming from this side, there's a good chance your front main seal is the culprit. So first step is to jack up the car and make sure it is fully seated on jack stands on both sides. Next, remove the passenger side wheel. They are 17mm lugs. Now that you have the car up in the air and the passenger side wheel off, the next step, or really the first step as far as what you're doing in the engine bay, is to remove the serpentine belt, which if any of you guys have seen some of my other videos, such as how to replace the timing tensioner seal there, you may have seen this, but for those who haven't, there is a half drive square in the belt tensioner. Just get a 1/2-inch drive breaker bar, and if you can see, that will operate your tensioner, and then just slip the belt off. Now I've already done it. I removed the air box just so I could show you guys. The way I slip it off is usually slip the idler pulley off first, then get the power steering, just kind of push it over, and then kind of work it off the water pump, the alternator. Ultimately, I just pull it down from where it wraps around this harmonic balancer. Okay, next step is to get a 27mm socket for the crank pulley bolt. There is a specialty tool that Saab advises you put on the opposite side of the crankshaft, on the flywheel side. The reality is that tool is impossible to find. So if you have a good air gun or just any impact driver, you'll be able to spin this bolt off no problem without moving the crankshaft at all. This is just a kind of general DeWalt that we have, but it's pretty good at spinning these things off. So if you don't have an impact driver or an air gun, now is the time to invest in one, because it'll make this job so much easier. Once you've slid the crank pulley off, you will find yourself face to face with one of the legends in Saab DIY, and that is the oil pump snap ring. You can see this leaking right there. But the snap ring is going to be the thing that separates the DIYers from those that take it to the shop. The way you remove this is get a pair of snap ring pliers and put them in each of these holes, and then as you squeeze them together, it will release the tension on the snap ring. You got to make sure you have a big set of pliers that will do that. I have this kind of homemade fashion tool that will work. Once you get the tension off, though, then sometimes it helps to have a second person take a screwdriver and kind of pry out the snap ring from the housing.
This is like one of the hardest things in Saab repair in general. Alright. There we go. Got it. Son of a gun.
Okay, and the rest of this pulls right out. Just make sure you don't damage your crankshaft here at all. You're also going to want to take note of this little arrow that's right there, because when you put this all back together, it's going to line up with the arrow that's right here. Okay, now it's time to take out the old seal. Now you're also going to want to definitely replace this little oil pump housing O-ring, especially since you spent all that time trying to get the snap ring off. Now this rubber is usually pretty hard. This one is certainly hard. So when you order this seal, make sure you order the O-ring for the housing as well. You can see how hard that is. It just broke. Just look at that. Just breaking off in here. Okay, next, this seal is going to be in there extremely tight. Sometimes it helps to flip it over and kind of get a screwdriver in here and kind of hammer it out with a mallet, which I'll switch to my workbench for that part. And once you get the old seal out, you can go give this a nice light cleaning and prep it for the new seal going in. We will be using the old seal to place over the new one and hammer that in evenly. Before we do that, you want to make sure you have a nice hard surface, and also put something down like a rag just to make sure you don't damage any of the face that touches the oil pump housing. Was that a hair or a scratch? Okay, good, that's a hair. Here's the lip right here that the new seal will be fully seated into. Look at that nice bronze color too. That's what you like to see. It tells you that the car is loved. And you're going to hammer evenly to make sure that the seal, when you look at it from the other side, is fully seated up to there. I'm also going to get it, I got a little bit of oil on my finger. That way we can kind of oil this up just a little bit to ensure he goes in smoothly, because this is a, as I mentioned earlier, a extremely tight fit, which is what we want. Just kind of get him started. Make sure it's even. And then we'll put the old seal on top of this and start pounding it down. Be very gentle with it. Gosh, I don't know who the hell bedazzled this thing. But you'll know you got it all the way in once it's kind of just below this metal lip. And you can flip it over and make sure it's fully seated. Looks like I got just a little bit more to go. And this thing will be ready to refit once we replace the O-ring around the housing. Okay, and that's where the video ends for me. I'm still waiting for my oil pump housing O-ring to come in. It's on a separate shipment. But that's how important that O-ring is, because if we look right here, see all this oil pooling up at the bottom? That was more likely causing the leak than the old seal itself. But given that I'm waiting on parts for that and everything else, I'm going to go ahead and take the easy way out and say that install is the opposite of reverse. Have fun putting that snap ring back on once you get everything all put back together. Again, make sure you line the arrows up with this arrow and the one that's on the housing, and go ahead and clean up all the old oil leaks. If you have any sort of plastic shielding like I did that was barring your access here, make sure you put that back on as well, and reinstall the belt, release the tensioner, and it's pretty straightforward. But I hope that video helped. Thank you guys for watching, and safe sobbing.